Police officers of Reddit, have you ever had an all units call, and if so, what happened? Former cop here. The all units call was basically a riot at a large nightclub in a very rough area of the neighboring city. Once things were finally calmed down and the dozen or so people were taken away and my boss wanted us all back in our city, I was amazed at not only how many cops showed up but from where counties and towns I had never heard of before. I looked up a few at the end of shift and some came from an hour plus away. 25 years ago. Smallish rural town. My dad is a beat cop on patrol. My cat brings in a live mouse and is playing with it in the kitchen and my mom is deathly afraid of rodents. So she calls dispatch and tells them my dad needs to come home. Dispatch gets on the line and tells my dad to switch to a secured line. There's an emergency at home. My dad's driving home to take care of the issue when all of the cops, probably like 4, of my small town on patrol come with sirens and lights blazing on my house because all they heard was there was an emergency at my dad's house. My mother was mortified. Was a military police officer on a rather large base. I was getting off shift and being transported back to my barracks by the guys coming on shift so I could check in my weapon. Suddenly we got a call for all units to respond to a section of base housing. A military wife was having an affair with another soldier while her husband was on deployment. Supposedly the husband was due to return soon so she tried to break it off with the other guy. He responded by stabbing her several times. My team leader and I searched the tree line with our weapons drawn, cause he's armed and it's dark outside, yeah no. I actually passed the guy with my team leader a few yards behind me and suddenly he comes out saying you're looking for me. Scared the shit out of me. My team leader covered him while I went in for the handcuffing, making sure that I had my knee firmly planted in between his shoulder blades and thoroughly covering his upper torso into the muddy terrain. Not sure what happened after that. He was taken to a holding cell by another squad and I got to go home. Ended up getting transferred from that base a few months later, but I know the wife survived the wounds. Happens all the time. Officer S. in a fight. Possible subject with a gun. Major traffic accident. It's not anything like the movies. If it's a big enough incident, all your available units are going to be going. I work as a police communicator at a local university. Usually an all units call is a fire alarm at one of the buildings. However, most of the time it's a false alarm and someone just burned the popcorn at the lounge. I got run over by someone fleeing the scene of an incident that they weren't involved in. He just got scared and apparently had a gun on him. I was out of my car talking to the person who called and my partner was trying to stop the person who was really called on. So he didn't even see me get hit. No one knew I got hit or where I was because my radio went flying. Luckily there was a lot of witnesses who called 911 and found my radio. I confused the dispatcher because I was in so much shock that I came over radio taking like I normally do. But I was bleeding badly from my head and broke my leg. I didn't feel the pain for about 2 hours. So I had that call come out because of me. I'm also pretty sure a policy got made because of me too. Former Royal Canadian Mounted Police here in a small tourist town. Was working on a regular mid-weekday shift when we received a dispatched call for a bomb threat in the industrial commercial sector of the town. We all went there. Called in the bomb squad. The dogs. Got people out of the area. And so on. We were doing roadside when we got another call that the local bank's silent alarm was turned on. Now. We are in Canada. In a tourist town. Things are usually relatively calm. But this was absolutely chaotic. We got the all unit call. They call our neighboring detachment to help. We all split and head to the bank. We arrive, around 20 some patrol cars all around, there to see all bank employees bounded and gagged. Smoke everywhere from smoke bombs. We realize very quickly that the bomb threat was the diversion. We immediately got a bolo out to get the 3 males. Identified by the bank staff. Including a former bank employee. We get the bolo out to CPIC. Got words to airports and border crossings. We managed to catch 2/3 of the guys. The last one flew back to his home country, was in Canada on a student visa. We remained on high alert for days after this, looking for the third guy. Canadian authorities worked with their colleagues from the other guy's country to get him extradited almost a year later. In the end, as I recall, about $130,000 were missing and never recovered. For most of us, it was the first time we had a bomb threatened or a robbery. First time we were guarding an area, expecting to be shot at from an unknown location. The robbers were reported to have AK-47 type looking weapons. Edit 1, Bolo. Be on the lookout for CPIC. Canadian Police Information Center. Edit 2, changed deported by extradited. NB. I won't name the town or the country involved. Not a police officer, but used to work corrections. An inmate decided to try and fight one of our newer guards. The inmate failed to realize he was a military policeman trained in hand-to-hand combat and just a good fighter. Lol, we watched it on the cameras quite a few times after. Not a police officer, but I shadowed one a few years back. They had an all units call that day at around noon to some house out in the woods that was partly in their bounds but some of the driveway was not, was part of another county's bounds. The entire police force, which totaled out to be around 12 police cars, 2 officers each, minus our car which was the officer plus me but I'm not an officer, arrived at this place and this house looked like a bit of a train wreck. Somebody nearby had reported hearing gunshots and screaming. There were a few houses near this one, but not really too far apart. I couldn't go in, but everybody else did. According to the officer I was shadowing, they found a guy sitting and staring at a blank TV screen quietly humming to himself with a shotgun in his lap. Several officers stayed with the guy, who was totally out of it, and others, including the one I shadowed, went upstairs. They found a dead woman and man laying in bed together, and in another room a young child which had been strangled to death. Apparently the man downstairs came home to his wife in bed with another man, and he grabbed his gun and just straight up shot them. But that guy wasn't the one who killed the kid. The wife did. According to a journal that admitted to her adultery for many years and the intolerable screaming coming from the child. Don't know what the guy got charged with, how long he went to prison for. But man, the whole thing was just so ducked up. Buddy's first day on the phone at a fire station in an international airport. Airliner detects a fire in the rear by the generator. They are coming in hot and need assistance immediately. Buddy decides a major airliner incident is imminent. Calls the city fire department, which might have 80 fire stations. They all send every unit, expecting complete mayhem. Airplane lands safely. False alarm. 200 fire trucks are lined up for miles outside the airport. No one was able to get in because the gate was closed. My rookie friend botched his all units call. Edit, it was a false alarm. Not sure if that's clear. We have calls almost daily that kind of meet this requirement. We have patrol sectors, each with a 2-man cruiser and a 1-man cruiser. The 2-man cars handle the high priority calls and the 1-man cars handle the more mundane stuff. So when a call comes in like shots fired, both sector cars go and usually other sector cars start radioing in that they are also responding. I do remember one night at midnight, which is shift change, we had a 2-man unit that shot a guy who pulled out a gun on them. You could hear gunshots over the radio and the car calling for help. The dispatcher kinda stumbled a bit, then said everybody go. Everybody go. Happened to my dad when he was stationed overseas. There was an airshow disaster in Germany and he was already there, so he was one of the first to respond. He struggles from it still. Fireworks and barbecues remind him of the smell of burning flesh that day. I am not a police officer, but I watched this happen. Our local school has a spring festival that's a big fundraiser for us. The local police have been extremely supportive and always send out a VW bug painted in police colors. The officer they send is great with kids and an excellent ambassador for the force. So, bright sunny spring day. Kids milling around. Carnival atmosphere. I'm walking with my friends. One eye on my kids. My friends have their non-verbal autistic son close by. Since it's a lot of stimulus. He loves the police car. Sirens. Lights. It's awesome. Officer McFriendly crouches down to eye level as the boy is sitting in the car. The boy turns to him and offers a high five. Landing his hand on the officer's radio. More precisely. On the officer down panic button. Like the Dolph Alive Soren. Every cop in range turns to converge on the schoolyard. The officer realizes what's happening and manages to wave off the imminent hot takedown of a preschooler. But I must say there was genuine fear in his eyes. I recently had an all-available units respond call for an unresponsive child. My partner and I have never driven so fast. When we got there all you could smell was brakes and exhaust fumes from our cruisers. We entered the house and found the child. A 1-year-old boy. We performed CPR. He was transported. He didn't make it. It's hard to be criticized by the media and general public when these are the things we deal with. It's awesome. Officer McFriendly crouches down to eye level as the boy is sitting in the car. The boy turns to him and offers a high five. Landing his hand on the officer's radio. More precisely. On the officer down panic button. Like the Dolph Alive Soren. Every cop in range turns to converge on the schoolyard. The officer realizes what's happening and manages to wave off the imminent hot takedown of a preschooler. But I must say there was genuine fear in his eyes. I recently had an all-available units respond call for an unresponsive child. My partner and I have never driven so fast. When we got there all you could smell was brakes and exhaust fumes from our cruisers. We entered the house and found the child. A 1-year-old boy. We performed CPR. He was transported. He didn't make it. It's hard to be criticized by the media and general public when these are the things we deal with.